Okay, so Liberty Basic. Now what you're going to do here, what you're going to see is a completely different programming environment. It's going to look completely different. It is not graphical. It is not drag and click. It is text-based. It is entirely based on typing. Okay? What I'm trying to do is, by the time you get to grade 12, is I'm hoping that we will at least be sniffing around some Java by the time we get to grade 12. Okay? Java is sort of a complex thing, okay? And you need some experience with some, text-based typing. So I'm working towards that goal. Okay, so let's talk about Liberty Basic. Okay, so again, it's a different kind of software environment. You have to type in the commands. It's a procedural language, which means to bottom. It means top to bottom. Okay, you start at the top, and it goes through. It can jump around, okay, but you do not have multiple scripts going on at the same time. Like, you know how in Scratch you've got like one script here and one script there, and another sprite's got something going on, right? And you got them all sort of going on all over the place, right? Liberty's not like that. It's like, here's the code, and you sort of read line for line kind of thing. You can do things simultaneously. It's not exactly simultaneously. You have to sort of, know what you're doing to make it appear simultaneously. Okay? Things happening simultaneously are harder to code. The programmer has to do more of the heavy lifting. Less is done for you behind the scenes. Scratch was all about, learning some basic concepts like loops and ifs and that kind of structures. You're going to have to do more of the details in Liberty Basic. Okay? It's way more powerful than Scratch. You can make windows. You can do lots of things. Scratch is cool. It's a nice beginner spot. Okay? And we will likely come back to it in grade 11. I have to show you some other things as well. Okay? And it is fun to work in. There's no doubt about that. Okay. So what you need to do is get on your computer now and find Liberty Basic and close the World of Basic box. You don't need that. Okay? So see if you can get Liberty Basic started up. What I would like you to do is I would like you to blank off anything that's in your Liberty Basic, and I would like you to type in that little program. Okay? This is the title. You don't need it. Okay? Type in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Type in those 5 lines while I do my attendance. I thought I had mine all saved. I didn't, so I had to quickly retype it. So here's mine. Okay? Can you guys see that? Is that big enough? Well, let's just go through that. Let me just make this a bit bigger here for you. Preferences, editor font. Come on. Come on. Editor font. Come on. Okay, so what you've got here is you got a little program. Oh yeah, now it's going into that mode. Okay, so we've got input, quotations, number 1, and you can see I sort of did some weird sort of capital letter stuff there. I've got a semicolon here. Did anybody try without a semicolon? No? Okay. If you did, you would have gotten an error. Okay. Can you tell me what the 3 variables are in the program? Jason, yeah? What are the 3 variables that we're using here? Number 1, number 2, and answer. Okay. Now you'll notice that what I've done is I tend to put the commands, which are in blue. Is your command in blue as well? Yeah. Okay. So it recognizes commands and it puts them in a different color. It puts them in blue. Okay. I tend to, just because in the old days everything was in caps, I tend to put the commands in capital letters because that allows me to sort of see what's a command and what isn't. Okay. You'll see what's inside quotations is in green, and then you'll see what is here as a variable is sort of like a teal. Yeah, kind of a teal kind of color, right? So it means different things. Okay? Now, for me to run this, like the green flag, what you do is you click on the little play button right there. Okay? Did anybody find it? Okay, or Shift F5. When you do that, okay, it's going to open up another window, and it's asking me to type in number 1. So I'm just going to type in a number here like 5, and then like 3. Now, that kind of looks like 15 and 23, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So we got to solve that. And you'll also notice that my crazy capital letter stuff's going on here, and you'll notice that my answer is 0.
My answer is 5.
I did this on purpose because the one thing you're going to find with Liberty is you're going to find lots of syntax errors. Now you'll notice at the bottom here I've got this, similar variables, answer and answer. What the heck's up with that? They're not the same. Capital A and lowercase a answer are not the same. In other words, hey there, you are probably wanting these to be the same. So I have to go back up here and I have to change that A to a capital A. Okay? It's a Scratch did all that for you, right? Okay, now remember I also wanted that space. I didn't like that space thing, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a space right there after the number 1. I'm going to put a space right there, and in fact I'm also going to put a question mark, just so it looks like a question, and I'm going to fix this right like this as well. Okay, so now you'll notice here that I've got all capitals here, and here I don't. What I like to do is I like to have my variables start with a capital letter and then lowercase. If you have to have more than one word in your variable, then I would recommend you do this, like number of students, something like that. Okay, like where you've got like a capital letter there, sort of like an email address kind of thing, right? Okay, we don't need that in this case though. Okay, so number 1 and number 2, let's just run this now. Okay, number 1, 3, 5, the answer is 5.
No, in your answer, the number 1
was it?
Yeah,
okay. These are the things that happen, and you have to be able to. Oh, see. Oh, yeah. So here's my problem right there, right? Okay. It's very touchy. Okay. You gotta be very specific. It's easy to make a mistake. I made all of these by the way on purpose. I did. You don't believe me? I did. Okay, most of them. Most of them. 5 and 3. Yay. Okay? All right. Liberty Basic. Okay. Now, those of you that are fooling around and playing, you guys aren't going to know what's going on here. So I know you want to play and you want to try stuff. Okay? So that is the basic add two numbers program. Okay? Basic add two numbers program. Okay. So variables. Same idea as Scratch. What's a variable? It's a place to hold a value, whether it's a score, a time, a name, a place to hold a value. They can contain numbers or values, or they can contain letters, which we call strings. You dealt with strings in Scratch. I just didn't call them strings. Okay? Oh, and here I've got, in the last program, we had three variables. What were they? They were number 1, number 2, and answer. Okay. For now, they're generally going to be integer values. We're going to start you off with just integers. Okay? They could be decimals. Liberty Basic does not treat them different. Most modern programming languages, you have to say this is going to be a decimal, this is going to be an integer. You have to declare that ahead of time. Okay? Liberty doesn't make you do that. Use a variable name that means something. Like if it's length, call it length. If it's width, call it width. In the good old days, you were only allowed one letter for your variables. You had to call it L. And then you had to have like the dictionary what L stood for in your program.
So you can only have 26.
Pretty much. Well, I think they allowed 2. You could have like L1, L2, and L3, and you could have, right? You had to document a whole lot more. What do you think the word document means in programming language?
Same.
You've done it already. It's the same thing as commenting. Okay? Documentation refers to the adding of comments to a code that help us understand the program. And they are extremely important. And Emma, you really need to put that phone away. Okay? Documentation refers to the adding of comments to a code to help understand the program. Who's it for? It's for debuggers, people looking at the code, and it helps you with programming. Please do not be one of those programmers who writes the entire code and then spends 3 days documenting it after. That's backwards. It's backwards, okay? You should document as you go. In fact, if you document ahead of time, it helps you code because you know what you have to work on, just that little bit. Okay? It's a very good habit to get into. It will be graded. Do it. It's just like comments. It is expected. You must document. Okay, so here's the documented version of adding two numbers. To make a document, to make a comment, in Scratch, you went right-click and you added a comment, right? Here you just put an apostrophe, and then anything after that is considered comment. So if I go back to my program here, I can put something like apostrophe, calculate, or sorry, display answer. Okay, that, and you'll notice that it's gray. It doesn't do anything. It's just there to help you understand what's going on. Now, at the start, you're going to have a lot of really chintzy little comments that really don't mean anything, like get first number. Well, obviously. As you get better and better, you're commenting chunks of code, okay, big chunks. This bit of code takes two numbers and adds them together, right? This bit of code sorts the array. This bit of code prints the high score, calculates the high score, whatever, okay? Generally, comments are for blocks of code. Okay, what's a compiler? Did I say that? Did I say anything about compiling? No, I didn't yet, right? There should be a comment down here somewhere. Okay? Yeah, the apostrophe signals that anything that follows is just comments and is ignored by the compiler. What is a compiler? So, this is something you need to know. What is a compiler? The name compiler is primarily used for programs that translate source code from a high-level programming language to a lower-level language like assembly language or machine language. Huh? Speak English, Bennett. Speak English. Basically, a compiler translates your program into a language that the computer system can understand. Scratch did that as well. You just didn't know it was happening. If you watch my Liberty Basic program, if you watch real carefully here, you're going to see a window pop up and there's going to be a bar that's going to go like right across, like a progress bar. Did you see it? Okay, it happened really, 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 really fast. How come? Because it doesn't take long to compile five lines of code. When you get a really, 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 really big program, like this one, oh, I cannot find that one anymore. All right, Luis, I can't find you here. I'm just going to keep going and record it and send it to iTunes or to YouTube. Okay, so that's what compiling is. It takes all of that typing and it translates it into what we call machine language. Ladies, I need you to watch, okay? I really, really, really need you to watch. It takes that language and it converts it to machine code. You do not want to program in machine code. It took me about 2 days to add two numbers together. You don't want to do that, okay? They write compilers to do that sort of stuff. Scratch was based on the Smalltalk 80 language. It compiled Scratch code into machine code to run it. So it was actually happening in the background. You just didn't know it. Now you do. Okay. So documentation, it links what I call pseudocode to real code. Pseudocode. What does pseudo mean? Anybody know?
Sort of.
False. False code, exactly. Sort of code, not quite code. Can be used to fill in the blanks. Okay? Example, you leave out the code and just add a comment telling you what goes in that spot later. You might be writing your code and saying, okay, yeah, in here I need to do this. So you put a little comment, I'm going to come back to this and do this. And then it just ignores that, right? And then you come back and you fill in the blank. It helps you with your planning. Documentation and pseudocode are very, very, very important. Okay, let's talk about print syntax. Syntax refers to the grammar of the command. In Scratch, you didn't need to worry about it. You couldn't screw up the syntax in Scratch. It was impossible because it was all just click, right? Here, if you forget a semicolon, it's going to be a problem. Okay? So first of all, the syntax of print, if you print a variable, like print answer, it'll print the value of the answer. If you print variable, like if I print answer in quotations, it's going to print the word answer. Anything that's inside quotations is going to be printed. Anything that's not inside quotations is going to be treated like a variable, and that's what it's going to print. Okay? The quotations are very important. If you forget a quotation, let me go back to, oh, I gotta go back to my number one. Let me go back to that. I just want a new file. Source file. Input, enter number one. Oh. Okay. Can anybody see? Hello, Luis, you're back. Can anybody see the mistake I've made? What did I make? What's the mistake, Jason?
The
Quotations. Now you'll also notice that the coloring is different, right? That's usually a signal that there's some sort of problem. So what's going to happen if I run this, do you think? Actually, this is not a double. This is treated like a documentation here, isn't it? So it's going to ask me for. It's going to compile, but then it gives me a runtime error. Now, you guys want to avoid errors at all costs because it might tend to make your program crash. You're going to have to learn before you run. You got to save. You got to save. Okay? It's especially bad on network machines. With all the securities and features in place, it's especially. I don't know what it's going to be like on these ones. We're going to find out real soon. Okay. What if I do this? What if I do my double quotations here? Oh, is that going to work? I still got this problem here, right? Okay. And you'll notice that it tells me I have a down here. It says unfinished string. Unfinished string is code for you forgot some quotations. Okay. You're going to have to know what all these things mean. Okay? I got to finish that quotation right there. Okay? I'll give you guys a chance to play right away. Okay? Okay, so that's print. Input syntax. Let's just talk about input and then you're off to the races here, okay? So input variable will pause the computer waiting for you to enter value. It's like the ask command in Scratch. It's almost exactly the same as the ask command in Scratch. The only thing different is in Scratch, the answer was always put in the variable answer. Here you get to say what's the name of the variable. So input, what's the value? Variable will display what's the value, and whatever you type in will be called whatever you called it. Number one, number two, high score, name, string, whatever. Okay? You must use a semicolon. You must use a semicolon after the text to be displayed. Okay? You have to have what is the value, question mark, semicolon. Syntax is like grammar. Okay. Let me just see what have I got left here. Oh, I got lots. Okay. I would like you to type that in and see if you can get that working. Okay? Type that in and see if you can get that working. These are comments. Okay, this is just finding the length and width of a room. Type that in and see what happens. Can anybody tell me what these two blank print lines do? Just print the space. It's purely for the looks of it. Your output needs to look nice, to put it, briefly kind of thing, right? You want things to look nice.
Oh my gosh.
Output needs to be nice.
I love this work.
Output needs to be nice. Can I move on?
Yes, sir. No. Can we make this work?
Okay. So here's what I would like you to try. This is just practice. This is not hand-in. We've only got a few minutes left here. I'll stop after this. Okay? A shop owner requires a program to calculate the amount of change to be given to a customer, the price of the item sold, and the amount of cash given by the customer is to be input, and the amount of change is to be calculated and displayed. Okay? So you input the price, you input the cash, and then you calculate the change and display it. It's pretty straightforward. Okay? You input the price, you input the cash, and you calculate the change.
Do we save this crap
Okay?
anywhere?
This is just practice. This is something. No. This is just something for you to try. Okay? Just subtraction. That's all. Try that. Play around a little bit. We'll start up again tomorrow.